Hello, I'm Rosaic, and welcome back to another season of MCNN. For those of you not familiar with the show, we exist to help you stay up to date on all the drama, jokes, and shenanigans happening in the Life series. This season takes on the twist of bringing the players through Minecraft history as they start this season in Beta 1.2, the earliest version Grian and his team could get working. Each session, they will be moving into a newer version of Minecraft, regenerating the world with the same seed each time but keeping bases intact. To help offset the learning curve of older versions, this season returns to the 6 life system. We also get a clarification from Grian on non-red kills. Only reds can initiate PvP, but kills from traps or accidents are allowed on any life. Sadly, not everyone will get to trap their friends, as Lizzie and Mumbo are not returning for the season, likely due to trapping their friends' actual houses. Anyone coming after Grian will have to be careful though, as he started this season with a team in mind, hoping to collect the Adventures of the Life series. He sets out to find Gem, who quickly questions her strength at current, and Pearl, who is only there in voice at first, but is soon able to be seen in her old skin. They quickly pivot alignments to become the villains, but aren't entirely sure why. Having messed around with farming, Tango and Impulse decide to team up to bake the freshest bread this side of the server. They initially called themselves the Bread Boys, but not for long as they rebranded to the Gluten Guys, mentioning it at every given moment. After the mid-session break, they are joined by Ren, who was building above them thinking they were much further underground. He joins in the sourdough shenanigans, so to the viewers of this team, we are sorry that gluten no longer sounds like a word. Building in this version is very different to the modern age, so naturally a number of the server's builders are drawn together to commiserate the loss of their pretty blocks. Beat-Up shows Scar the ways of farming as they get set up with a simple farm. They're joined later by Etho and Scott with the vision of building a very manly cabin core base, which also gets adopted as their team name. Having been left to their own devices by the rest of the server, Jimmy and Skiz team up as the Rejects. Joel later joins them, being admitted due to sporting his old Shrek skin. Jimmy plans to have Joel carry him and Skiz to victory, which Joel very modestly agrees with. The last team leans into the scuff of this season. In appearing 4 seasons in the making, Martin and Cleo join together after finding out about the invisible player bug. The repeated issue leads Martin to dub their team the Lost Generation. They also pick up Bigby while mining, but he appears to only be minorly teamed with them, mostly keeping to himself. Despite finding seeds quite easily, many players were still very lost on how to play the early game without many of the comforts of today, or just visually lost to their fellow players. To see how they attempted to handle this hard stage, we've called in a specialist to explain just what the players were dealing with. Welcome to the show, Arrow.
This week, the life has struggled in many ways, but the adaptation to the wonky world of beta Minecraft may have been the most difficult to all around. To start with the odd farming mechanics of older versions. The strange gathering of seeds from tilling of grass was found rather early thanks to Beat-Up Low. Additionally, while in modern versions you're able to walk on your crops, Etho has shown that this is only allowed in earlier versions with the help of fence shenanigans and or crouching. Etho also shows us the odd way water works in beta Minecraft, with functional boat elevators and, more importantly, a rather shallow margin for error in landing, which led to a death for Solidarity. We would say Fly High King, but this isn't the first time he's fallen to his death, so perhaps not. We also encounter constant issues with players being invisible to some, yet visible to others. Thankfully, we do not fully lose their presence, as they remain audible and largely visible to other invisible players. Some players, though not invisible, still have their model obstructed due to glitches shoving them inside walls and floors. This isn't even mentioning when they decide gravity is more like a suggestion and float around in the sky or in the floor. Additionally, the top skin layers would even vanish, doing horrible things to our players' hairlines. Further in the realm of glitches, a hole in the border is said to have been found. Whether or not this will lead to anything of importance is anyone's guess, but at least one player looked at the hole in his crate and walked away. In a few other POVs, you can see what appeared to be chunk errors deleting the border, although none were mentioned outside of Ren's perspective.
Thank you for that insight. There were many more mechanics that our players had to get used to this week. The typical start of session rush was reduced to a barely brisk walk, as the ability to sprint is not present in this version. They also have to be careful in water, as players aren't able to swim for many versions, so there's no additional mobility in water. Another hindrance to their movement comes in the form of fences, which are treated as full blocks but don't allow players to jump on them. This is quickly weaponized as Grian does some sorting and puts the lifers in the square hole.
What's the square hole?
This is the
I
square
got
hole.
Scar.
Jump in the square hole.
Oh.
Okay, that's the end of the session, everybody.
No, I
See
can't
ya.
get out. Hold on. Before you end the session, I can't get out.
Fences have a stick-only recipe in this version, leaving many people wondering, how do I craft this again? They even give a normal number unlike ladders, which only give 1 ladder per craft. This notably annoys the gluten guys as their base has 2 floors. They should probably be more concerned about the sand dancing outside their door. This is apparently entertainment for their end of session spectacle. Let's have Aces fill us in on what they were up to.
Thanks, Rosaic. This season is a good reminder that we're dealing with people who have been around since the beginning of Minecraft, and they want us to know it. And that means that a lot of the bases this season are pulled from the past. Rin remembered his early days playing with his brother and paid homage to it by building a giant cobblestone pyramid, as this is what was all the rage back then. It gets a glow up as his teammates move their farm inside it and add a second floor for storage. Also, the bucket of lava poured over it. That really made it glow too. The Lost Generation paid tribute to a different building style from that age, recreating faces. Martin is able to find the resources for his face easily, but Cleo's hair provided more difficult as the only orange block available to them is pumpkins. Thankfully, Etho picked up a few naturally spawned jack-o'-lanterns and was willing to share. Big B doesn't join in though, as face bases are so last season, and makes a large egg just close enough to seem associated. The cabin crew did things differently and tried to build a base that actually looked good. They kept getting slowed down by building tricks that they loved and not working. B-Dubs learned that Beta doesn't have wooden or top half slabs, which ruined the roof he planned, and Scar learned that oak logs couldn't be placed horizontally. So the base may not be perfect, but at least they got their hot tub time machine set up to get to the next session. Meanwhile, the villains taking their nostalgia trip in a very personal direction, pulling from their first Minecraft bases. As luck would have it, Pearl and Jim both started out with a jungle tree setup, and Grian started out with a lighthouse. Fortunately, they were able to compromise on building a time-traveling lighthouse, adding more layers to it with every update. That doesn't sound like much of a compromise, but it's better than the wooded sandbox that they have now. And finally, the rejects decided to do some creative branding to make sure the server remembers the team. They designed a house in the shape of an L, complete with a maze at the front door, so it could equally stand for loser or labyrinth. The house is mostly cobblestone and planks, but the maze features a stylish brick floor. If nothing else, it's a step up from Skizz's cobblestone box, which might have been more thematically appropriate. Back to you, Rosaic!
In addition to day 1 bases, we see almost everyone take to the mines at some point. Some do this for resources, but many use it as a way to hide from mobs. Guess sometimes you do mine at night. Many players are used to current terrain generation, so they forget how deep the world currently goes, with Joel thinking it goes into the negatives. A number also forget if diamonds are even available in this version, and if they do remember, have a difficult time finding and mining them. As with many playthroughs, armor is a high priority, but some get too caught up in crafting that they make helmets. Some don't even bother with iron armor, instead using the spawning mechanics to kill enough cows to get leather armor. Given that armor also protects less as it takes more durability damage, some players decided to save their resources for future updates. Many players also save the saddles found in the many dungeons for when they have horses, although a few double check to make sure pigs don't work. Mossy cobblestone is also collected as a rare building block that can be potentially traded. They have to be careful grabbing it though, as mobs can spawn on top of the player as a few learn. Pathfinding and reach also make the mobs in this version more dangerous, especially combined with the inability to sprint. Thankfully, many veterans are willing to show their teammates the ways of spam combat. Not everyone was being helpful to the community though, and some decided to start shaking things up early. Mighty?
Thanks, Mosaic. In theory, during the first episode when everyone is on green, we'd expect mostly a lot of resource gathering and base building. Some people, however, have decided that will be a bit too boring. Grian, Gem, and Pearl are striving for outright villainy. Emphasis on the word striving. Once they've determined this is going to be their shtick, they've committed to establishing a villain arc. The next visitors, Cleo and Martin, arrive complimenting their base pearl skin and the fact they found a dungeon. In an attempt to start the arc, the three of them try to take Ollie's compliments as sarcastic and become offended. This sort of backfires, however, making Cleo and Martin feel villainized instead. When they notice a group of 4 mining below them, Grian and Martin hatch a plan to prank them with TNT. Martin will dig straight down, and Grian will drop TNT at the end of that tunnel. As every true villain knows, however, you need clear signals to pull off successful acts of evil. Since they didn't have that, Grian ended up dropping TNT on Martin and killing him. As Cleo is calling them all monsters, Grian apparently lets go of Shift and plummets to his death in that same hole.
We're friends with an idiot.
Alright, I'm gonna
This bad guy thing ain't working out, Jim.
The group decides they need to commit to the bit a bit more fully, and settle on a plan to steal everyone's torches. They go to Skizz, who Grian ends up distracting while Pearl grabs all the torches, and as Skizz is rewarding this behavior with 2 pairs of iron leggings, Jimmy ends up dying, and the villains rush to his dead body to loot his stuff. Pearl nabs his diamonds, which Jimmy and Joel are trying to force them to give back. When they are unsuccessful in trying to get the diamonds back, Joel torches the villain's house and the nearby trees, declaring that either the diamonds are returned or everything burns. Gem, however, takes a more direct approach, establishing a combat pact with Etho that in any session where neither of them have died, they will PvP. In beta, this results in the death of Gem, as Etho had the advantage knowing the older version's attack mechanics. It remains to see how this will play out in the future combat updates. Wrapping up work for the base of this session, Pearl attempts to add a bit of evil with thorny roses, which might work better if Minecraft roses actually had thorns. Maybe whenever they update to 1.14, they might actually be able to get some berries, and then have them actually stab people. In the meantime, this appears to just be one of the ways the team is trying unsuccessfully to be evil. Alright, back to you in the studio.
And that's all for this week. While there hasn't been a set update order provided to the audience, we're sure next week's update will bring about new mechanics to play with and more ways to cause chaos. I've been Rosaic, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.